Hey guys, welcome back to the Duck Chronicles. We're going to see the ducks a little bit today, but we're really going to be taking a property walk. I found an old video we did over 2 years ago, about two years and 3 weeks ago, and it made me realize how much the property has changed. Because we basically did a walkthrough, over an hour-long walkthrough, and I'll put a link in the video notes today where you can contrast it, because that's really what this video is going to be more about. What does this type of land management lead to? How can you actually regenerate land? And people have been kind of shocked as to how green the place is in February. The video that's linked, you can take a look at, is from March of 2 years ago. So 2 years and a few weeks ago. This year, I'd say we're ahead a few weeks. I mean, it's been a very mild winter, so it's a pretty good apples to apples comparison. And I think you'll be shocked. I'm going to take a walk that's the same basic pattern that you can see the Muscovies have taken to hanging out on the deck here and the porch. So one project Dorothy and I want to get done this year is we're going to put a nice little pretty picket fence that keeps them out of this area, and we can landscape this all nice in flowers and stuff without them ruining it. We're going to do the same to the front. We'll probably do the front first because it's the first thing people see, because we're never going to be able to correct this problem with the downspouts as long as the ducks can get in here. And anyway, have a sip of tea for my voice, and let's take a walk, kind of following that same basic pattern from the other video, much quicker again. If you look, there's a lot of things in that video that we decided not to do for one reason or another. We never put planters around this deck and put vines up the pergola. We'll probably do that at some point, but it just didn't take priority over a lot of other things like getting systems established and keeping things alive. There's Ken Barbie. I wanted to change his name to Ken. We named him Barbie when he was a baby because we had to get friends for him to play with. That was the abandoned duck. And somebody gave him to us actually, and we had no ducklings to go with him. And we thought he was a her. So Dorothy went out and got 3 mallards, Little Brown and the 2 that you see there, and they've been a social network ever since. Since Little Brown's not here, my guess is she's making a nest somewhere. We keep finding her squirreling away eggs. But it's just interesting that bird's been around as long as it has, and it looks so beautiful now. It came from just a tiny little abandoned duck that a family found. Anyway, let's take a walk again. Everybody's taking naps. Quail are out on the pasture. They'll be in their aviary soon. I have to build the doors hopefully this weekend. One of the most striking differences that you'll see revolves around the work that we did this year. And I'm going to try when I pan the camera to go really slowly. I know that can cause a lot of almost motion sickness with an iPhone camera. But before I get to that even, I want to kind of point out, this is where we put in our little experimental orchard. We probably lost 40% of the trees we put in it. That's okay. We did nothing to them other than irrigate them. And we didn't even do that very well. But we have an amazing pasture coming in here. This is where chickens were held for the first year. So there's a lot of fertility there. And the birds have been excluded. There's a whole bunch of dead sunflower stalks. We let those come up to kind of shield the young trees with shade. We'll go in and just anything that doesn't look like it did well or died, we'll just replace. We got plenty of trees to do that with. And we're going to get, instead of just mounds, proper berms in this spring. Coming over here though, if you look at the video that's in the link and look at this field, and you compare this field, one-handed operation of this gate is not the easiest, to where it is today. You just have to deal with it, guys. If you compare the video of this field to the way it looks now, and I know when you look out there, you'll say, oh no, he put irrigation in, that's all. No, that irrigation water is just a bit bigger than those berms, just to each side of those berms. It doesn't do anything here. It doesn't do anything at all here. By the way, we've run it once since we put it in, because we put it in fall. So it actually hasn't done anything yet. It's for the summer to get the locust trees through. But, there was no pond there. Let's go take a look at the back rest of the pond real quick and see how that's going. I've got a fountain system with a floating island I'm going to be building this week too. We'll get that in place. And I guess really, here's what to look at. This property over here on my west side was abandoned over 15 years ago. No one's done anything with it for 15 years. That's nature's reparative mechanism. People ask, what is a brittle landscape? This is a brittle landscape. If it's jacked up, it doesn't fix itself. This property, this entire property, I'm talking about my property, all my neighbors, all this was rangeland. It was grazed by cattle until it wouldn't recover anymore, and it was turned into housing developments in the 70s. So that's what happens when you don't fix a brittle landscape. This is what happens when you do. This is the difference. I mean, you couldn't have it any more evident than comparing this to that. It's about as evident as it gets. Remember, I'm standing on about 2 inches of soil that's on top of limestone slab. The pond's nice and full. Fed the catfish yesterday. They went ape, so we'll make sure I feed them again today. But my bees are pretty happy about this mustard that's growing on the pond dam wall. It's not really a dam wall because my pond is just a hole lined with bentonite, so we can plant anything we want into this without worrying about, you know, its integrity, because it's not really holding any water back. So there are 25 locust trees planted in it, maybe 50 actually. Let's see if any of the bees are around. I hear them. It's pretty cold today. I guess maybe I don't hear them. No, there's a couple. So yeah, they're working the mustard pretty good, especially for how cold it is. We're pretty happy with the daikon that's over there too, but they really like this mustard. Hey, Dana the cat. She's gonna come with us because I don't want her locked on this side of the farm. So we'll take you back around and show you the rest of the place. This will be a longer than normal episode. 3 acres is bigger than you think it is when you start walking it every day. But one more look. Hey, Dana. One more look at this pasture. Hey, here's an interesting thing. You see these big green clumps of grass that almost look like mondo grass, same grass as everywhere else. This is where when my neighbor was bringing me horse manure, the ducks didn't do a good enough job of spreading it out. That's why grazing practices are important when you're grazing cattle. You need to move them in enough so that they do some trampling and do some leader follower, so you don't end up with that, because the cow won't touch that grass. Too high in nitrogen. So for a season, that clump just won't get grazed. To be a damn hungry cow to eat that. Very bitter. You just think about over-fertilized green vegetables. When they get bitter, imagine that on steroids. That's what that tastes like to a cow. So the one never-ending chore here is the duck holding area. I'll get that gate later. We just had a major rain event. You can see over here where they don't spend a lot of time compared to over here where they do. It's like a mud crip. So we always have to keep bringing more and more wood chips in here. But I'll tell you what, one day we'll come in here and take a few inches of it off. The value of that compost material will be amazing. Kind of go around this way. Got my net there. I haven't picked that up. I had to net a duck. Got some string attached to her. This is my duck net. It's basically a rubber fish net that gives so it doesn't hurt them. So when I have to catch a bird, this is what I use. This whole island I don't think really was even established. You can see I've got plum and apple blooming already. It's a Bruce plum. It's a red delicious apple. This is, yeah, the bees are on this too. That's nice. Beautiful blooms already. This is an autumn olive, a golden autumn olive, 2 years old. When I planted it, it was about like that right there, a little stick. These were the first things put in on the property. They do appear in the video, the other video. These are hugel beds. If you want to know more about them, just watch that video. We explain it pretty well, but as you can see, we've successed it into an orchard. This whole area down here, this is where my neighbor said nothing would ever grow, all along this fence. He said he built his house in '71, before this house was ever built, and there was never anything green here. I'm not calling it lush pasture, but it's alive. We were able to actually do that pretty fast. But I anticipate this area getting a lot better. We've really not done anything here other than graze it. I mean, that's pretty much it. Graze it and throw some seed. Very, very shallow soils. Lots coming on. I think that's a Anna apple. Let me see. Yeah, Anna apple looking good already. Mulberries coming up down there. Autumn all starting to break bud. Again, this is February, guys. I'm really hoping we don't get a really hard late freeze because we're going to lose a lot of fruit blossoms and a lot of set fruit if we do. Coming back here, this was dead, brown, uncovered when we moved in. Quail aviary, we got it all nicely skinned. I still got some work to do on it, but we did a 1/4-inch hardware cloth on it. You can see on this side, I got to come back in with the hog rings. I had the students just basically get it in place for me. So there's some gaps there that need to be fixed, but I've already worked this side. So you can see this is all nicely buttoned down. Starting to green up in there. Got plumbing to it. Stand up there, and the other end back there. But haven't actually hooked them in yet, but that's ready to go. Seeded the trench line, and you can see how we did the hardware cloth. It goes down here with a break in it, a bend, and that bend comes out like that, and that's buried, and that's done all around. So there's no tunneling under this. Bees are happy. Working pretty good for the temperature. It's in the 40s, low 40s right now, but they're out and about. They like me. They stung 2 of my students on this last workshop. We had the smoker sitting here so we could work this end, but I want to get some establishment of greenery in it before the birds come into it. And I still got work to do. But yeah, just look at the difference in the property. These gardens are about to get fixed up. I'm gonna be going mostly perennials with this, actually. Groundnut, some autumn, not autumn olive, groundnut and Jerusalem artichokes, strawberries. Maybe keep a couple for peppers and whatnot. But I got plans for that too. But again, the green. This property is just not the property I moved into. Everything's different. And this fall, I saw it coming. I did a video where I was excited like a little kid walking through the food forest, showing you guys all the stuff that was growing where the only thing I could ever get to grow was low-end grass. And I had all these legumes and things coming up. We're going to be taking cattle panels and put them over the ponds this year, and then growing tomatoes and squash in the ponds up onto the trellises like little mini chinampas. Nicholas Burton will like that. Here's a picture I posted this morning that prompted the question. This is a dwarf mulberry. You can see it's quite dwarf. I'd say the top of that's up there about, I think I said 9 feet in the post. I'd say that's closer to 10. I can't jump and touch that. But it is going crazy, starting to set berries. And what's nice about mulberry is it's an everbearer. This should bear all season. It'll bear crop after crop after crop. I get a bunch of those around. The inner swales are just, I mean, I let the pool sit there a couple days. You can see the contrast right there from what was covered up and what it isn't. Trees are breaking bud everywhere. This is a peach. It's about to open up. I've got one that's already in full bloom, setting fruit. It probably won't set a lot of fruit because there was nothing for it to cross-pollinate with. Another one there starting to flower. You can just see how green everything's become. Some of you were here for classes the prior fall, and were worried about, the ducks because they had grazed the berms pretty much bare. The reality there was because of that workshop, we had held up some of our cover cropping, but we also were in a situation where things just weren't growing yet. We just didn't have the fertility cycle yet. This land wasn't just not fertile, it was actually detrimental to life. Most of these trees were dying from oak wilt. Most of them have come back and are doing really good. Most of these trees had very little branch or leaves on them the day we moved in. And live oaks aren't supposed to drop their leaves wholly, They're basically an evergreen that does a minor leaf drop. But I know I'm walking fast here because I'm trying to not be too long with this video. And that messes with your eyes. So let me just stand here a second and take that in. This is white mulberry called Beautiful Day. This tree was planted 2 years ago. The trunk. I can barely get my hand around the trunk. Down here I can't. So this tree hasn't fruited yet. I got 2 more just like it. But I'm hoping this year. Plum cot, just starting to break bud. Apples here. I can't really go through everything that's here. There's a apricot, I believe. I don't even know. I have to go read it. No, that might be a plum cot. Let me see. There's so much in here that I really can't. It's a Flavor Delight apricum. So I was completely wrong. It's an apricot crossed with a plum. So instead of a plum cot, it's an apricum. More apples, medlars, still standing black oil, sunflower plants that drop their seeds for the birds, still standing, jute mallow plants, tons of seed. This stuff just grows itself now. It's a great green. Peach, here's a peach. How's that for a February peach? I'm just worried I'm not going to get much fruit even if we don't get a hard freeze and knock stuff off, because there is some set, but there was nothing for this to cross-pollinate with. And it's already dropping its blossoms naturally, just on time. Apple not ready to come out of sleep yet. Green everywhere. I mean, this isn't lush Vermont pastures or anything yet. It's the contrast that you have to see. There's a muscadine I trained for the last 2 seasons. Goes laterally on that branch. It makes a ladder across here, and it makes a ladder across there. That tape is just to train the vines. These vines will be thick enough to be self-supporting. We should get a fruit yield this year. Blackberry needs pruning. Some spots, I mean, we're still not holding greenery, or the ducks have dug out holes to lay nests, like right there. Some things didn't work. Here's a chinga pin. This is probably one of the few still alive. I just don't think it's worth worrying about anymore. I'll plant some other trees in here that do better. We've had failures. It's part of the process. Check this apricot out. This thing was in near death. It was actually planted by the prior homeowner when I moved in. It was a small, scrubby tree. It looked like they had taken it from Home Depot and just plopped it in the ground in the middle of no support whatsoever. But I think we're going to get some apricots off this one this year, guys. Fruiting rose, another plum. But again, keep in mind, this is February. And things are different. Hey, Michael Jordan, you watching this video? You remember this? This is a feijoa that's not supposed to survive our winters. We had an incredibly harsh freeze right after you and I planted this plant. It looked like death for 2 seasons. But those roots got established, and look at it now. Stood right through multiple frosts, no problems this year. Because even though we've had a mild winter, we've had plenty of frosts. Plenty of good freezes too, actually. Another survivor from the original homeowner. Kind of a resurrected moonglow pear. This area here, we've done nothing, and it shows. I mean, this is what the property would probably be like, only a little less green. We use this for parking, so we just haven't put any effort into it yet. We really need to just sheet mulch the hell out of this, though. And I'll do some other stuff where I talk about the different techniques that we've done here, because we've done sheet mulching, we've done strip mulching, we've done swales, we've done berm creation. And I would probably do the whole property different if I knew everything I knew now, but the only way to learn it was to go out and do what you could with what you had. So here you go, guys. It's a different place. Even there, even the front yard's green. Now let's go finish up by the latest install. It's not the most exciting time of year when your primary crops are fruit trees and are just beginning to break bud. And there's a lot of it doesn't even show up. You don't even notice it on camera because it's just little brown sticks in the background. Give it 2 or 3 weeks, I'll do this again. It'll be a different experience. Yeah, we came in this last spring, and we put in this berm, a little micro swale, take water away from the house, spread it out to the fence line. And then this year, after I had established rows of ragouts in it, and they're all starting to come along nice now. Got a good cover crop coming up from underneath the wood chips. You'll say, hey, how can I cover crop if I put wood chips down? I threw the cover crop down, threw the wood chips on top of them, and son of a gun, look, it grows right through. But I got 7 fruit trees in here, 1 at each sprinkler. Wife's willow tree's taking off nicely. Dump sill, dump swale basically there for the birds. So all their poop water goes in there now. It's feeding that willow tree. That willow tree's gonna blow up. I think I'm gonna cut them down to 2 tanks instead of 3 though on the tanks, because it's a bit much even with this system. What I'm actually thinking about doing next is, see the berm there? Instead of making it a swale, make it bermed all the way around and plant some kind of reeds or cattails or something in there that can deal with that more of like a wetland. It might make it a little more difficult to maneuver the ducks to bed at night. I may need to come up with a new exit point for them to kind of modify their pen, but we're going long. Everybody's coming back to check for food. They didn't eat real good last night because it poured rain, so Dorothy put some of their feed in that little hut, put the rest of their feed in the shed, and a lot of times they don't want to go in there, but hunger is getting the best of them, so I'm going to go bring their feed out so they're a little bit happier, and hope you enjoyed this little bit long episode of the Duck Chronicles and the property walk that went with it.